Talk about young shakes. Chicago 2 represent. Just change. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city. Dog, I ain't never been a chump. And if he thinking I'm a chump, watch him get his head lumped. For my city.
Hello, this is Lacy Rice with Rice Fame Group. And this is Chat with HBCU Champions, episode number 8. Today we have head coach Andrew Chatmon from Alabama State, and his women's bowling team won the SWAC championship this year. How you doing today, Coach?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Well, Coach, congratulations on your victory, on your championship. And glad to hear that you had a successful season this year.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. The girl put in a whole lot of work, so they finally got to see the fruits of their labor.
Okay, all right. Well, Coach, we're gonna ask you a series of questions, and you just answer however you want, and take as much time as you want. We want to know more about your program, and we definitely want to know more about bowling within HBCU programs. That's not something, I guess, that's associated with most, but there are quite a few HBCU programs that have bowling, in athletics. So,
all right, so yeah, our program has been around for about 30 years. LaTanya Thurston actually started this program, and she offered me the position of coach 30 years ago, and I turned it down because it was just a stipend, and and it was just part-time. But I turned it down. I came on board about 14 years ago in 2008. The coach actually quit in the middle of the season. And the AD was, he asked me to finish the season, take the girls to the last 2 tournaments and stuff like that. And when after the season was over, nobody wanted the position, so I applied for it. They wasn't. It was just a little stipend, I say I do it part time. I could afford to do it with the job that I was working with, Campbell Soup Company, and nobody wanted the job, so I got it. Started doing my research, building my program. I've been bowling since I was in a bowling alley since I was 5.
So you say you have been in a bowling alley
since I was 5 years old. My parents bowled, and so I was in there. I was one of those bowling alley rugrats. I was a military brat, so every post you go to in the military has a bowling alley. So from Fort Meade, Maryland, to Fort Bragg, to Fort Benning, Fort Lee, Virginia, Central America down in Panama, I was in a bowling alley in the morning times on Saturday mornings as a youth.
Okay.
And
okay. So I'm assuming that when you were first offered that, they knew that you had a lot of experience as a bowler.
Well, what he actually said was I was the only person he knew that knew anything about bowling. He said, "You're the only person I know that knows anything about." He said, "Could you finish the season out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, no problem." So I did, and then when I did, I was like, "Man, I like this. I'm gonna put in for it." So, like I said, since looks like it's gonna be a little part-time thing, I could do it part-time with my regular job, and I turned out to be pretty decent at it. I started, getting my certifications and stuff, and getting with USBC as a coach. They have different levels of certifications for coach where they teach you how to be a better coach. And so I went and got my level 1, I got my bronze, and then I got my silver level certified coach, which costs a little money, costs a little travel, but you learn so much more about the sport.
Okay. So, and I don't know how much bowling is associated, with African Americans, but I do know, growing up, I grew up similar background as a military dependent, and so I know that Post always had bowling alleys. In fact, a close friend of ours, God rest his soul, who lived a few doors down from us here in where I live now. Um, he pretty much ran bowling alley up in Fort Knox, and another close friend of ours who's African American, because Fort Knox had two bowling alleys. He ran the other one, and so now I personally always associated bowling with African Americans, and I know too, as a graduate of Kentucky State University, we actually had a bowling. I don't know what we would call it. We had a mini bowling alley on campus.
Okay.
I think it was like 4 lanes or something. It wasn't big at all, but uh, the funny thing was, I attended Kentucky State for 3 years. I think that bowling alley might have been open maybe 3 days.
It takes a little bit to run one now. The people have to know you have to have a mechanic. When it breaks down, you just can't go back there and flip a switch. You got to get somebody in there to work on them. So they're not cheap to operate.
Okay. So do you have a bowling alley on campus, or do you have to use an external bowling alley?
No, we don't have one on campus. We do have to use an external. We have two in Montgomery that we use, Bama Lanes on Atlanta Highway and Bolero on Eastern Boulevard, both less than 8 minutes from campus, which is good. I mean, and we use two different ones because the two lane surfaces are different. One's an HPL house, one is a Pro Amboline house, which makes a big difference when we're getting ready to travel out of town to bowl.
Okay. Well, since you brought that up, can you explain the difference between those two surfaces?
Oh yeah, an HPL lanes are much softer, so the ball is going to hook a lot more. That's going to create more friction, which creates hook. Pro Amboline house is a much harder surface, and it's going to slide a little further. It's going to have a different type of reaction. So the reason we practice is just like a football team. If they're going to go play on a field that's grass, they practice on grass. If they're going to play on a field that's turf, they practice on turf, so they can get the best, closest feel to what they're going to be actually performing on.
Okay. So essentially, you have to scout before you go to these. Is it called a bowling meet or a bowling match or
It's a tournament.
a tournament? Okay.
Yeah, tournament have anywhere from 8 to 30. Vanderbilt's tournament has 33 teams. So yeah, and they'll let us know 10 days before the match. They give what they call a event certification, and they'll let us know what the surface is. But if you've been there before, you can look in your paperwork, or if you've never been to that house before, you could just call them, and most of the times either the manager will know, or if he doesn't know, the lane maintenance person will know what the surface is and how old it is. The older it is, the more friction it is. The more friction, the more hook.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because like I said, I enjoyed bowling when I was younger. Came to realize that if I didn't actually have a wrist brace on, a wrist brace on, then I was going to do a lot of guttering.
I used them at one time about 25 or 30 years ago, but I took it off and I actually got better without it, because it allowed me more freedom to work my hand a little bit and do different things.
Okay. Well, before we get into your career and things like that, can you explain some things about bowling that most of us probably wouldn't know? I know you have those markings on the lanes and everything, and you mentioned hook and those type things. And truthfully, when I was growing up, I actually used to enjoy watching the bowling tournaments on television. They used to be very exciting, and especially those guys were almost evenly matched, and everything came down to the last round and last pins. It was very intense.
Yeah. All right. So with bowling, people think, oh, I just throw the ball down the lane. Well, like I just explained a minute ago, their lanes are made out of 2 or 3 or 4 different lane surfaces, they have the options to whatever surface they want to put in. Okay, those surfaces are what creates friction and has the ball hook. Now, in order to get the ball to a certain point on the lane, they put, and to actually to protect the lane as well and make it last longer, they put oil on the lanes. There's a machine that will spray the oil down in a certain pattern and a certain thickness, a certain amounts and stuff. Well, when you're looking at that, there are different types of oil, and each one has a different, like motor oil viscosity. You know, the different types of synthetics, where the oil on the lanes is the exact same thing. They're all made to do something different to cause a certain effect. Bowling balls are made out of different chemical composites. You know, every ball you see is made out of something different, a different chemical composite and a mixture. And it's made to do different things on the lanes. You know, the inside of a ball, the core, there are different cores in the ball. Those are also made differently in order to have a desired effect on the lanes. The best way to explain it is bowling balls are like golf clubs. You can't just use one for everything. You got when the situation changes, you got to change from one ball to another. Just like when you're playing golf, you got to change from one club to another to get a different desired effect. Bowling, though, is the only sport that every time somebody does something, the conditions are different from the last time they did it. So it changes constantly. Every ball changes the lane conditions. That's like moving a basket every time somebody shoots the ball. You know, raise it a little bit, lower it a little bit, move it to the right, move it to the left.
Okay. Well, that kind of explains some things, especially because, truthfully, I also used to watch Married with Children, and of course, besides high school football, Al Bundy's other favorite sport was bowling.
Absolutely.
And I know that he had his own special ball. I think he even had a name for his ball. And I noticed that about a lot of bowlers, that those who are invested in the sport have their actual balls versus using those at the lane. So since the like you said, the composite, the the interior and everything else are different for the balls. Do your athletes have multiple balls that they take with them to the tournaments, or do they just take one ball, or how do you work that out?
Oh, absolutely. We are only permitted to carry 6. Everybody has most everybody has anywhere from 6 to 12. I have about 20, and I only carry 6 with me when I go travel. But yes, every young lady have a minimum of 6, and they're all just like golf clubs. They're all different, and they're all made to do different things under different situations. So yeah, it can be quite an investment. Um, but it's like any tool. If you buy the right tools and use the right tool in the right situation, you know, it's going to pay off for you.
Okay. And I'm assuming the same thing goes with the shoes.
Oh, absolutely. They make shoes now with before you just had one sole on your slide shoe. Now they make it to where you can change it out, because there's so many different um, factors when you doing shoes. Is it a wood approach? Is it a synthetic approach? Is it raining outside? You know what I'm saying? Is the house humidity have a lot of humidity? Is the air condition blowing all the time, or is it hot in there? All of these things will change and cause the approach to be slippery or sticky. You know, do they really polish the approaches with the machine before league or tournament or whatever like that? And so you can change the surface. Just like football players change the length of their cleats, you change the bottom of your shoe to make the adjustment and get the best performance.
Okay. So bowling is actually a lot more, it's competitive bowling anyway. It's a lot more complex than what people might think.
Oh, my associate AD a few years ago, he came up. We did a tournament up in Huntsville at Alabama A&M, and it was just a 1-day thing. We bowled against Vanderbilt, UAB, and Alabama A&M, and we actually beat Vanderbilt that day. And but when I got back Monday morning, my associate AD started in the cafeteria. He started asking me all these questions. He grilled me for like 20, 25 minutes. I started getting nervous because I didn't know what was going on. So I go over to the AD's office, to Stacey Danley's office. I'm like, am I about to be fired? He's like, no. I'm like, he said, why? I said, because Mr. Hines was just in there and he was grilling me and he was asking me all these questions and stuff like that. So he called Mr. Hines into the office, and Mr. Hines said, look, don't nobody know nothing about bowling. He said, I don't know anything about bowling. He said, I wanted to know, because he was asking me why Vanderbilt had this and why Vanderbilt had that and why we didn't have this and why we didn't have that. And he was educating himself. But look, nobody really had paid us any attention before. So the fact that he was interested to find out why they had it and we didn't, or if we needed it and stuff like that, that made me feel. But I was like, man, why is he asking me all these questions? Oh man, I'm about to be fired. And but he said, no, he said, I didn't know anything about it. And so he's like, I wanted to know some more. And so he started asking me the question. He said, okay, we need to try and see about getting you some of the things that they had, or find out what it is that you need to have you performing better. And it started to pay off. The program started taking off. We started setting school records, started winning regular season championships, SWAC tournaments and stuff like that. So started winning regular tournaments, started performing better, getting better recruits. So it started to pay off.
Okay. So how many young ladies do you have on your team?
This year we had 6. It was a small team this year, very tight knit. We're bringing in 2 new recruits this year. All 6 are going to return. We're going to bring in 2 new recruits this coming up year. Trying to keep everything moving in the correct direction. The recruiting is hard for bowling. I mean, it's not so much about their ability as if they got a good foundation, I can teach them how to bowl. But it's so much about how they are as a person, how they are as a student, how they are as a teammate. Because this is a small group, and any strife or drama is going to tear it up.
So, what would you consider to be a big team?
9 or 10 would be a big team. The maximum that you can carry and travel is 10. But there are a lot of schools out there, not HBCU, but a lot of schools out there that have 12, 14 girls on the team. To me, that causes a drama, because you can only travel 10. I mean, somebody got to stay home. Whoever's staying at home ain't gonna be happy about it. So I try to keep mine to where it's manageable, and the young ladies are all supporting each other, whether they're, you can only play 5, whether they're in or whether they're out. We need to be as one.
Okay. So I imagine that, and I have seen this before. I imagine that you have that there are some tournaments maybe where you can enter an A team and a B team.
No, sir.
None? Okay.
Not NCAA. You can do that on the club NAIA, the club program side. It's a lot less rules on the NAIA on club program. They also have men's bowling on that side. But as far as NCAA it's a Title IX sport. So there is no A team and a B team. You have one team that you can submit for NCAA.
Okay. So let's transition a bit out of bowling a little bit, and let's go into your background, especially your athletic background.
Okay. I actually came to Alabama State in 1981. Played baseball for Larry the Legend, Coach Larry Watkins. Came in here. I was the very first person he ever signed as head coach. And so I came here to play baseball in 81. I've been part of Alabama State off and on, different reasons, since 1981. So for 41 years, we actually share an office together. So if you hear the door open a little bit later on, he left, but he might come back. We actually share our office. We got a huge office, but we share an office together. And you know, I posted a picture on Facebook the other day of the day that I signed my scholarship. You know, 170 pounds. I had hair. I was looking young and stuff. Coach Watkins standing there, and then I posted. We took a selfie the other day. You know, all grayed out and stuff. We sitting here in the office, and like 41 years of history, you know, between us. He's been like a father figure. You know, but yeah, I came here to play baseball in '81. Uh, I played football and baseball. I graduated from Enterprise. I went there my senior year, and at one time they were ranked like number seventh in the nation as far as high school teams. But I went my junior year in Atlanta. Played baseball and football up there. I played a lot of baseball. I was in Central America down in Panama, in the Canal Zone in the '70s, and played a lot of that's baseball year round down there with Rod Carew and all the famous players that came out from down there. So that's pretty much the extent of my athletic. I've got a few other little, I play around at basketball and I play around at golf. I don't necessarily if you could necessarily call it playing basketball or playing golf. I just say I play at it.
Okay. So while you were a student at Alabama State, did you maintain bowling as a recreation there in Montgomery?
Actually, I didn't. I did not. I stopped bowling when I left high school because I bowled. Like I said, I was a youth bowler. But then when I came to Alabama State, everything was baseball. Summertime it was baseball. During the season it was baseball. And then when I finished here at school, I dropped out back in the '80s, and I took jobs, got family, got married, kids, and everything. And then I started playing a lot of golf then. So I would play golf 2-3 days a week, because the job that I had actually permitted it. And then I started back bowling about in the early '90s, '92, somewhere around there. I started back as a recreational bowler, pick up bowling league here and there and stuff like that. And then that's how I ended up being the bowling coach. Like I said, when the person quit.
Okay. So, are there any regrets for not taking it back when you were first offered the job many years ago?
No, I'm blessed enough to realize that when it's for you, when God says it's for you, it'll happen. He probably thought I wasn't ready back then, so he didn't allow me to take it. And I probably wasn't. I think my mental state now is a lot that I can deal with the ability to coach young ladies and stuff like that. Back then, I probably wouldn't have had sense. I'd have been like Bobby Knight or something like that. But now I can understand better and I can be better at what I do. It's just everything is in God's timing. Right. So no regrets at all.
That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. And so, how is it coaching young women for you? I have background coaching several times. Coaching women, especially or women or girls. In fact, the first coaching job I had. I was a head coach of my Army, of my team when I was in the military, our women's team. Mm-hmm. And I loved it, in fact, some of them were older than I was. And, some of them had actually played in college and things like that. One of them, she outranked everybody because she was a drill sergeant. Okay. and we were privates. And so, I always tell people about those women. That was the easiest coaching job I've ever had in my life because they listened. Now, for me, it was because they listened to everything that I said. With I guess before I took over, and because the teams were transient, because you never knew who you were going to lose due to orders and everything. During the season. but before I took over, and the reason I was able to take over was because the team early in the season hadn't won any games. They were terrible. And so, I didn't play organized basketball, but I watched people like you mentioned, Bobby Knight, Dean Smith, Denny Crum, some of the greats. So I kind of picked up some things from them. Plus, my gym teacher in high school is one of the best coaches in Kentucky history. And so I picked up a lot of things and was able to coach. And those women were great. I absolutely loved them. We ended up winning our division on post. And then we came in second on post in the post tournament.
Okay.
And so, how was your experience? Because now, when I coach girls in the middle school and high school level, and even on the collegiate level, as a volunteer collegiately, it was a bit different.
So I started out, believe it or not, when I was with Alabama State back in the 80s and stuff. I coached and had a lot of intramural teams as well. So one year we won. I had the men's flag football team. We won the championship. I had the men's basketball team. We won the championship. I had the girls softball team that I had comprised of basketball players and volleyball players and stuff like that. And we won the girls softball, and I won the girls basketball as well. Coaching girls with guys, you can say, "Damn it, do it because I said do it." And you can, but it's different with ladies because there's so much. Some of them have, and they're all individuals. Some of them have emotions involved and stuff. So you have to be a little bit more delicate in how you explain things. You know, so it's definitely it's definitely two different worlds, coaching men and coaching women. You know, um, sometimes they want a little bit more explanation. You know, whereas guys, like I said, just do it because I said do. They don't understand it, but they just gonna do what you said do. But you gotta make them feel like it's their idea and they have some input in order to get what you need out of them. And then there's very few of them where you can coach, and some of them want to be coached like me. Just be strict on me, be hard on me, and they want you to put that foot on their neck and make them do what they need to do. They're all different, all individuals, and you just have to learn each one of them's style of learning.
Well, yeah, because that is a long ways from when I was coaching. There have been a lot of various developments, and we'll definitely talk about some of those a little later.
Okay.
But transitioning once again into this season, can you tell us about your season this year?
We had an excellent season this year. Of course, as you know, last year the season was shortened, so we had four freshmen, and with a shortened season, they didn't have a chance to see the development. When they come out of high school, they only know one thing, one way. Okay, so now you're trying to teach them different ways to do things, different methods. It's not starting over, but it is backing up a little bit. And they need to be able to, for them to be fully committed, they need to be able to see that progress. And with that short season, we didn't have that. We didn't get a chance to see that progress that they made. I saw it, but they didn't get a chance to really see it. So over the summer, they put some work in. When they came back, they were fully committed. We won 89 matches this year. I don't know. I hadn't checked, but there wasn't many, if any, teams that won that many. So they were committed. They believed. They trusted what I was saying. And after when we came back from Christmas, it really picked up. It was like a truck going downhill with no brakes. The communication we had was there. We always communicate. If you ask my girls, the first thing they'll say, you say, what's 99% of problems come from? They'll say miscommunication or lack of communication. So we keep our communication open all the time so that we don't have any roadblocks. And they were open to, it was like they suddenly just opened up and committed to everything and trusted what I was saying, and it worked. And they pulled each other together, whoever was in, whoever wasn't in. You know, they had that growth from freshman to sophomore year. You know, everybody used to be in that big fish in the little pond. Now you average fish, and you got to establish yourself. And so now they're working to understand that one success is everybody's success. If one person failed, everybody failing. So I need look. If I'm on the bench, I need you to do well so I can get me a ring. And it took them. They understand that now. They can't do it on their own. You know, and no one person gonna beat five people on another team. You need everybody else doing well as well. So you encourage them.
So when it comes to scoring for in the tournaments, is a cumulative score or is it average?
It's the scoring actually for the tournament is three different setups, three different formats. The first is what they call Baker, where you'll have five people. First person to throw the first frame and the sixth frame, 2 and 7, 3 and 8 on down the line. That on Friday is what they call a Baker total pins. So you'll bowl 5 games, but it'll be the accumulation of all 5 games, and whoever has the most at the end wins. On Saturday, it's a traditional, like, I'm going to bowl my game, you're going to bowl your game, you know, and 5 people bowl a game, and then whoever has the most at the end wins. And then on Sunday, it's a bracket play. So it's 4 out of 7. The first person to win 4 games out of 7. The first team to win 4 games, and it's a Baker format, but it's 4 out of 7. So you wanna get to like the NBA, you need to win 4 games in order for you to move on.
Okay. So now how many conference championships have you won since you've been there?
We won 2 regular season championships and 2 tournament championships. The tournament championships are what get you to the AQ for the NCAA.
Okay. So who are some of your staunchest competitors in the SWAC?
Right. Lately, it's been Prairie View and Jackson State. Everybody's competitive in the SWAC. You know, they added FAMU and Bethune. Bethune didn't have a team this year. Valley doesn't have a team. Alcorn doesn't have a team, and neither does Pine Bluff. But they added 2 more, so now we're at 9. But everybody's going to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's really running away with it. Now Prairie View for a couple of years, you know, they knocked off some big wins and stuff. But right now it's usually between us, Prairie View, and Jackson.
Okay. So now the SWAC is NCAA Division I.
Yes, sir.
So who are the I guess quote unquote power programs in the NCAA?
Oh man, Vanderbilt, Nebraska, McKendree, Arkansas State, Sam Houston. Most of the upper level teams are PWIs. It has to do with money. You know, it's kind of like, I equate it to this. It's like saving. Okay, Alabama wins because they get the best recruits. Alabama gets the best recruits because they win. Okay, so if the recruits start moving to HBCUs, that'll change the landscape, and we're actually, you know, more competitive. Like when we went to the NCAA this year, our bracket had number 3 Vanderbilt, number 5 Arkansas State, and number 7 Youngstown State. Now, our regional, we weren't designed to get out of that region, but we could have, because we have beaten all of those teams before, and we beat Vanderbilt this year. You know, they barely beat us at the NCAA by 30 pins, and Arkansas and our Youngstown beat us by 40. So we're competitive at that level, but the consistency of us being competitive at that level is not there yet, and that's what we're pushing to be for. You know, we're pushing to be in that top 10 or 12 teams, to be elite. So it takes recruits. Um, Straub used to be the coach for Nebraska, won 7 national championships. He told me one time he had a girl that averaged 236 at a tournament. He said, Andy, you think I taught her how to do that? He said, no. He said, at this level, it's just about the recruiting. He said, all of the coaches, we all know about the same information. We're all good coaches. It's just about the level of talent that you're able to get to come into your program. Okay. And so, I took time when I first started coaching. I went up and spent right after Vanderbilt won the national championship. I went and spent 2 days up there with him in Nashville, trying to see how I can better my program. He told me, he said, look, it's going to take you 6 years to get the program the way you want it, with the right recruits in, building the program slowly. And he was right. We won, and after 6 years, we started win regular season championships and stuff like that. But it's all about the recruits. The automatic qualifiers that the NCAA allowed for conference tournament championships just a couple years ago evens the playing field. Previously, if I go into a recruit, no matter how good if I go in her thing, I can say in her living room or whatever, hey, I can get you a SWAC championship. And Nebraska can go in there and say, hey, I can get you a national championship. Who do they want to go to? But now I can go in their living room and sit down and say, I can get you a conference championship and get you access to a national championship. Bowling is the only sport that we're competing on that level. Okay. Alabama State football is not going to beat Alabama. Georgia, anybody like that. Basketball, in any sport, but in bowling, we literally can compete at that elite level. And if you look at it, I feel like if anybody can win a national championship, it would be us. We would be the ones that would have the best opportunity, because we're constantly competing against the top ranked teams in the nation. I mean, we defeated several national champions, top 5 teams, multiple occasions. We were 12 and 14 against top 20s this year. Most sports won't even play a top 50 or even maybe not even a top 100 team. But so we're competitive at that level. That's what we're trying to do. That's how we're trying to build the program.
So essentially, HBCUs, as you said, they can compete on a national level because I'm assuming there's a lot less bias since there are automatic qualifiers to the NCAA now. And so you can depend, if you build your program correctly, you can join in with the parity.
Yes.
In other words.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, this year, we beat Vanderbilt this year. We beat Sam Houston on several occasions, Louisiana Tech. These are all top 5 teams. We've competed and beat some of these teams before. The better on a consistent basis. Now we got to get better recruits in and to be more competitive at that level.
Okay. And so unlike football, where you have the bowl series, and then you have the championship series, which used to be NCAA Division I AA.
Yeah.
Everything is all together on the D1 level.
Oh yeah. All 3 divisions compete. There is no sorting it out where you're a D2, so you're going to play D2. Now, divisions 1, 2, and 3 all compete against each other.
Oh, okay. So that is okay. So for the NCAA sanctioned championship, that's the only championship that's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or are there other sports like that?
Yeah, a D3 school, a D2 or D3 school can definitely win a national. I think McKendree is the D2 school, and they've won it the past 2 years in a row, or at least the past two times that they had it. They didn't have it last year. But yeah, it's literally you're competing at that top level against those top teams. It's all about, hey, put your shoes on and let's go.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's definitely news. I definitely did not know that. I came in thinking that maybe there were different division, like there are in other sports. But so that's a very interesting thing. I think the only now and this is getting out of bowling a little bit, but on the golf, when you have the national, what you would consider the national HBCU championship, is that even played with all HBCUs together, or is that split?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've never really paid any attention to it.
Okay, okay. 'Cause I know Kentucky State has won a couple of those, but once again, I'm thinking that maybe they're playing small colleges in one division and large universities in another, or something like that. Nobody's ever explained that to me. Hopefully we can get a coach on doing one of these chats to kind of explain that. But yeah, that's great news, hearing that uh on the NCAA side, no matter where you're at as far as divisions,
Right.
you get to compete. You get to compete against the best of the best. Period.
Oh yeah, you can get all this smoke. you know, back in the day when I first started coaching, we wasn't it wasn't all that. When I first started building the program, we wasn't all that, but we used to get our heads knocked. How do people say bust it down to the white meat?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but now they can't take us light anymore. We got Alabama State. We need to be on it because we will knock some heads too.
So is there a championship that only HBCUs compete in?
They have one. TNBA just started the TNBA HBCU tournament, and we've been trying to build it up to get all of the HBCUs to participate. I think the first year they had maybe 12, and then the next year I think they had 16 or something like that. But between the CIAA, the MEAC, and the SWAC, we were trying to get everybody to participate. They do that tournament in Atlanta every year. Um, we came in third the first year, and we won it the second year, and then we actually came in fourth this year. We went 10-0 on Friday and Saturday, and then the wheels fell off on Sunday.
Okay, okay, and that's also one of the few sports that competes on a Sunday, isn't it?
Yes. Well, baseball competes on Sundays.
Okay,
Softball, yeah. I think golf does as well.
okay, okay. Because I know you'll typically never see a football game on a Saturday. I'm sorry, on a Sunday, or
Basketball.
in right. Yeah, you'll never see those on Sunday, and so I didn't know if it was one of those things where there was some unwritten rule or agreement or whatever it was, so that they would not, play on Sundays.
No, it's not. We compete all 3 days: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, okay. And so like for travel and whatnot, do you do you compete in California often, or out on the West Coast?
No, there are no teams out that way. The farthest that the teams are for NCAA are Texas and Nebraska. Nebraska, then you got Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin. You got teams in Texas, but there's nobody any further west than that. And then it goes up into the Northeast as well, but nothing in California, Arizona, anything like that. I think they choose different sports as far as for their Title IX and stuff like that.
So, do you also have or compete much against the MEAC schools?
We do. Every now and then we'll run into them in tournaments and stuff like that, like North Carolina A&T. We probably see them only once a year. We saw FAMU when they were in the MEAC often. Who else? Maryland Eastern Shore we see once or twice a year. When Bethune had a team, we would see them maybe once or twice a year. But they kind of stayed to themselves. We hit every tournament that we could find in the Southeast.
Okay. So you primarily just compete regionally, which you have some of the top teams there anyway.
Right.
And
the only place we don't go is to the north. We haven't been yet. Is to the Northeast.
Okay. So the seeding for like the NCAA tournament, is it based on who you've played, or is it based on your region or whatnot? Because that's one of the things that always bothers me when it comes to the national tournaments for some of the major sports. It seems like HBCUs are always seeded last, no matter what their records are. You'll have a school out, and I'm not going to name any conferences,
right?
But you'll have a school out of a comparatively similar conference that won their tournament, and they might have even had a losing record. They might have been 14-16 and just got hot during the tournament and won and get into the tournament. Let's say men's basketball, where you might have a SWAC team that only had maybe 2 losses during the entire year, won the conference tournament, got that seed, and then but you got these 2 teams playing in a play-in.
Right. They try to do what they use RPI, as who you played against and who they played against, and your record with the RPI. There was a heavy discussion this year. Many complaints about how the NCAA seeded and bracketed off the regions this year. Several coaches were not happy with the way it was done. And I don't know if I want to say too much about the NCAA.
Yeah, we don't need any fines.
Exactly. But there were several coaches that had a different opinion about how it was done. Okay. And they didn't seem to think that it was done correctly.
Okay. Because you play against a top program, Vanderbilt. It seems like almost every year.
Yeah.
And you play other top, as you mentioned, top 5 programs. So, one would think that would help your seeding again, especially when you had other institutions or programs which did not play some of those programs.
Yeah, like I said, they're supposed to take into effect all of the numbers, and there's about 16 categories with RPIs, and it's not just who we play, but it's who the people that we played against, who they played against. And so I think that it can be manipulated, but the system is at this point what it is, till you can figure out how to change it, you got to play in it.
Okay. Well, now asking again about HBCUs, and I should have asked this when I asked you about the HBCU tournament. Is that HBCU tournament open to all HBCUs, whether they are NCAA or NAIA?
No, not all the time. They're mostly open to NCAA teams because that's how the your rankings, your scorings, and your record will be determined. If there are some tournaments on the USBC side or the NAIA side that NCAA and NAIA teams will compete against each other in, but it will not. They will not count towards your record. You know, if I beat an NAIA team, it won't go towards my NCAA scoring towards my record.
Okay.
So we try most tournaments, almost all tournaments are limited to NCAA programs because there's no
Okay.
sense in playing against somebody that it won't help you. You can't count the win.
So, is your season limited so that after the NCAA tournament you cannot play anymore, or are there is there an opportunity? Let's say that someone want to organize a tournament for all HBCU bowling programs, whether they're NAIA or NCAA, but they wanted to do it, in a way so it does not affect you, or it does not, or so that it's not meaningless.
Oh no, it's the season you have. The NCAA has a what they call a season of competition. A certain amount of you have to get a certain amount of competitions in within these certain amount of days, these maximum days. You have a competition segment, play what they call a playing and practice season, regular season, and then you have a championship segment. And in your regular playing and practice season, you have for bowling, we have 144 days starting October 1st with which to compete and stuff like that. When there's no competition or practice or anything done allowed, when their finals are coming up, like into December, you have to stop a certain amount of time before the finals, and then you also have to stop a certain amount of time before the finals at the end of the year. So you have a limited amount of time and a maximum amount of contests that you can participate in.
Okay, so that is similar to the rules for the for Division 3, of which I've coached track and field in Division 3, and I remember those being similar at, at that level, at least for track and field. It's like you can start on this day, but if you start on this day, then your season is in play,
Right.
and you have so many contests you can get in, and all sort of like what you were saying,
Yeah.
leading up to the national championship. So okay, so all right, so they kind of, it seems like, at least for bowling, it takes in consideration all things for all three divisions, especially since Division 3 cannot offer scholarships.
Right.
So, well, let's talk about that. What kind of scholarships are you able to offer at Alabama State?
We're allowed, like most, like NCAA allows us 5 scholarships, but we're not a head count sport like basketball. So if I usually recruit young ladies that can receive academic money because everybody, the bottom line is every high school kid wants to be in school for free. The parents want them to be in school for free. So you want to recruit young ladies I recruit young ladies that can receive academic money as well. That way I'm covering room and board. So I had to, that 5 scholarships I got to spread it out a long ways. Like making a peanut butter sandwich. You only got a certain amount, but you got to feed all these people. So that's how it's done. That's how I do it anyway.
Okay, okay. Well, I think a lot of schools do the same thing. A lot of programs in various sports do the same thing. As I said before, I also coached on the D1 level, as a volunteer for track and field, and I learned a lot, especially about scholarships at that time.
Yep.
Because before I coached there, I was also an official. I'm still in a way an official. And during one of the meets at that particular school, one of my fellow officials asked the head coach about scholarships. How many scholarships did he have, signing new athlete? And the coach told him, I only have two. Well, this is a program that has around 100 athletes. And it's like two, he had two scholarships and he's probably shooting for like about 10 to 12 athletes. So it's like, okay, so how do you do that? And like you said, they had to break it down. A lot of those, I think just about, or at least when I was with the program, all of those athletes were on academic scholarships.
Right.
And it wasn't no 2.5 academic scholarships either. They,
No.
very intelligent.
Yeah, 3.0 is the minimum. That's the baseline.
Right. Okay. So, I know you coaches have to work magic.
Man, you're a human calculator. I got an appointment with my compliance director later on. I'm counting money for 23 and for 23, 24 now. Trying to figure out, okay, if I got this right here and I got this person and I got these two leaving, I'm like, I got 0.18 available and I got point. And look, you got to be counting them pennies.
Right. Oh man. So okay. So let's talk more about the competition that you have there in the SWAC. And how and possibly how it measures up nationally.
Oh, competition in the SWAC is tooth and nail. It's some good parity amongst the teams in the SWAC. I mean, you got to fight for it, but at the same time, you're not fighting to be the best in the SWAC. You try. Like I said, we pushing to be in that top 10 or 12 teams. So we trying to get our skills right. I tell my girls, if you want to be an elite bowler, you got to do what elite bowlers do. You got to put that extra work in. It ain't just about going to practice. It's about going to practice on your own. It's about changing your thought process and how you think about what you're doing. It's about encouraging your teammates. Like I said, you need them to bowl good so that you can get a ring. So it's encouraging, it's pushing, it's wanting to be a little bit more than you was.
Okay. So let's talk then about, as you were saying, if you want to be an elite bowler, you got to do what elite bowlers do. How much does nutrition and mental health figure into that, and how do you manage those items?
Oh, it's a tremendous factor. Nutrition. I mean, if you're not healthy, you're not going to be able to bowl. Okay, so we have a strength and conditioning program here at Alabama State, and they work with them. We don't lift as much weights as we do a lot of core and a lot of conditioning and stuff like that. A lot of legs and core work, and then you said nutrition and whatever.
Mental health.
Oh, mental. Oh yeah, it's a grind. I mean, our season starts officially October the 1st. But before, we are allowed a certain amount of hours before that to start. But if we run from October to the end of March on the regular season and the conference championship, and then longer if you on the make it to the NCAA. So it's tough for these young ladies to balance, that schoolwork and stuff like that. That's always the priority. But balance that schoolwork, and then when they have time to get into the bowling alley on their own, because a lot of times that's when the light bulb comes on. When you're in there working on something by yourself, and then ding, 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 I finally got it. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily in practice when the coach is telling you and watching you, but when you're on your own, that's when you got it then. Mental health it's a grind. I tell the girls all the time, look, get you some time alone, go to the mall, go get you some, go spend some time, go to the movies, spend some time away from your teammates, because that can be a mental stressor for you. You know, being around the same people day in, day out, all day long, every day. You got to be have some kind of something to relax your brain, something that you enjoy.
So on the mental health side, because that is a hot topic among athletics these days, especially collegiate athletics. There's been a lot of student athletes who have attempted, and a lot who have unfortunately um, committed suicide. Do you have people in your program, let's say whether it's you or people outside of you, and people maybe just in the university environmental system, who they can just go to, they know they can go to and confidentially share whatever needs to be shared whenever they feel those particular stressors or pressures that they might want to take a final solution for a temporary problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, we're trained. We're not trained, but we're brought aware of situations of um, behaviors and stuff like that to be aware of. We have a program set up on campus that if we feel like someone might be a danger to someone else or themselves, they have a system set up on campus where we can make phone calls and get the people the help that they need. There's a counseling center. I actually tell the girls all the time. I take them to the counseling center and introduce them to the counselor because I know what kind of stress this is. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they come as freshmen, I tell them before they come, and I tell their parents, the first 90 days you're going to be homesick. Oh no, I won't. Yes, you will, and you're gonna want to call your parents and everything. That's why I also stress the communication. The having, we're checking on if you got a problem, if you're having a bad day, you can let me know. Hey, come to practice today, coach. I'm having a bad day. I'll try to talk to them, see what's going on, refer them to somebody. Hey, going over to the counseling center. You know, I want to keep that pressure from building up. They need to know that that's a safe place that they can go and talk. And then if it can be something as simple as giving them something, a method to deal with the little bit of stress that they have, whether it be classroom or bowling or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, because I said it's very unfortunate that that this has become a hot topic, but thankfully, someone like Simone Biles brought it to the fore during the Olympics, so that the general public became aware of this issue, and the seriousness of this issue.
Right.
So, okay. Um, Now let's talk academics at Alabama State. What are the major programs for Alabama State?
Oh man, I actually graduated in the College of Business. They have health sciences, biology, and this. Alabama State is a level 6 research facility as well. There's only a few of them in the country. They deal with nanobio something or other. That's over my head. I'm a business. I can count money. I can do business, but you talking about that science and stuff. They have at one point in time, Alabama State was referred to as the teachers college. We turned out more teachers than any school in the nation. So our Department of Education, we have a criminal justice department. Um, they have psychology. They recently, in a few years ago, have a major called what's it some kind of the studies. What's it called? Uh, it's like independent study. Um, that type of degree where you can mesh 2 or 3 minors to make your degree. Um, and that's under the University College. They have a College of Arts and Sciences. My daughter graduated from that College of Arts and Science. She's an art major. My son graduated from Alabama State in CIS. So it's there's a ton of majors and there's a lot more, They just recently added another graduate program to the School of Business. You can get an MBA now. They've got a occupational therapy where you can get everything from physical therapy to prosthetics and get your doctorate as well.
Okay. So, wow, that like I said, a lot of people don't know about the gems of HBCUs. That several of our HBCUs have top programs that are ranked nationally, and once again, that's very unfortunate. And I was just talking to someone who used to be a collegiate coach at an HBCU about how some PWIs will come in and try to if they're competing for the same athlete, they'll try to use academics as the crutch without realizing hey, no, we have certain, right, we put
programs,
right, we put out high levels of professionals and everything else when it comes to African Americans. So, especially when you consider, I think one of the things many people don't realize, is when you compare HBCUs versus PWIs, if you're African American and you go to a large PWI, you're probably going to be one out of about 3%, 4% at that institution. Just because you see all these African Americans playing basketball and football, that's where a large part of that percentage comes.
Exactly. You're right.
Yep. And so, if you go to an HBCU, you're going to see more people who look like you, and HBCUs are highly diverse. So, you're gonna see a lot of diversity among various people and everything else. So don't, give HBCUs a fair chance.
Absolutely.
Don't just, take what these programs are saying for granted. Because also with a lot of HBCUs, the overall atmosphere is totally different. The culture is totally different.
The way the way you're treated in those programs and stuff, and a lot of times the HBCU, your classroom is going to be more independent. You're going to have more individual attention from the professor because your classes are going to be smaller. You have people that actually care about you. They're just not there just to get the paycheck, or you're not one of 100 kids in a lecture hall.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that I always found to be ironic or funny is that I know there are some PWI D1 program football. Not necessarily. Well, yeah, even Power 5. Some of their largest crowds are when they play an HBCU, and that HBCU brings their band.
Right.
There's a reason.
Absolutely, they want to see.
Right. Yeah, because I know. I remember as a high school teacher, we had several people who were highly invested. I'll put it out. They were highly invested in athletics at one of the Power 5s here in Kentucky. And Kentucky at that particular time always had an HBCU at the beginning of the season. And they always brought their band. And I would always have people come back to school during the week talking about how badly that HBCU's band whipped up on the PWI's band.
Right.
So, and people have to realize, while you might get that once a year, we get that, all the time.
Right. It take Ricky Smiley to talk about that though. You see him do a little stand-up, boy. He talking about the PWI band and the HBCU band. It take Ricky Smiley to put that show on.
Oh yeah. And I've seen it many times. I think I have it. I think I have that bookmarked on YouTube, and, and so because one of the other things that upset me, I remember Kirk Herbstreit on football.
Mm-hmm.
He would rank college bands. I'm sitting there like, dude, what do you know about college bands? Because his ranking would always have Ohio U, Ohio State, primarily the bands out of Ohio and Michigan, and then you might have a FAMU or Jackson State in there. And so I talked to a band director of my alma mater about it, and how upset I was and how little HBCUs were represented. Now, you could also make the argument there were a lot of PWI bands that did not make the cut. But so you did at least get a few HBCUs in there. The only one that he could actually vouch for was Ohio State. Because he said Ohio State, that was one of the first, and a lot of HBCU programs actually model off of Ohio State, but then they throw their own flavor into it.
Oh, okay.
Now the other ones, you can argue, well, Ohio State definitely deserved to be up there, but then, like I said, you got a lot of, you have your Alabama State, your Alabama A&M, your, like I said, FAMU, Grambling, Jackson State, Southern,
Yep.
And even this year, my alma mater was ranked number 1 at the end of the year by the undefeated, Kentucky State University.
Okay.
Band, for the first time ever.
Okay.
And so, you do have a lot of programs where that band is one part of the ingredient to what makes an HBCU campus special.
That experience, yep.
And so now, when it comes to your matches, or to your when you have matches at home, are they supported by a lot of your community, your university community?
Yeah, they definitely will come out. We only have one tournament a year, and that's in our home tournament is in November, right before Thanksgiving, before we go into Turkey Day, And so they're gonna try to market it this year as part of the Turkey Day experience, So hopefully, but we get a lot of support from the community, from the university kids and stuff like that, because we're only here home once a year. So either you come and see it now, you wait till next year. But you got 3 days too, though. You got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a tremendous support, not just, like I said, in our bowling community and in our university.
Okay. Now, when you bowl, when you have your tournament, does the bowling alley, or is it lanes? Does it just kind of block everything off for your tournament, or do they allow other people to come in?
The outside bowling will be way on the other end. If we're taking up 20 lanes, 22 lanes, then we'll have a what they call buffers, separation, between us and the open bowling and stuff like that. The management here really supports us well, so we get good respect from the bowling alley.
Okay, well, that's great. That's always great to hear. And so now, you did talk a few minutes ago about the overall academics at Alabama State. What do your athletes usually take?
You mean what are their majors?
Yes.
Oh man, everything. One of them is political science because she wants to be a lawyer. One of them is biology. One of them is a teacher. One is in health information management. One is in the College of Business. Yeah, they're scattered throughout the majors on campus.
Okay. Okay. So your team is very well represented.
Oh yeah, in each department. Yep.
Okay.
A few years ago, um, we had the highest GPA in the nation in as a bowling program.
Oh, well,
And
congratulations.
and the next year I had a good crop. The next year we had the second highest in the nation. So I pushed the academics pretty hard. I mean, that's one thing when I'm recruiting. I can teach you how to be a better bowler, but I can't teach you how to be a good student. I can't teach you how to be a good teammate, you know, but I can teach you how to bowl. So if you've got those other two, we can build you from that.
Okay. So with those high GPAs, I'm assuming that you had a lot of academic All-Americans.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did. Um, we almost every one of our girls qualifies for Academic American every year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they put the work in.
All right. So I know parents love that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and if you ask my girls what are your priorities, they'll tell you school, then bowling. And then somebody will say, well, what's after that? Nothing after that. Coach, don't let us have nothing after that. School, then bowling. I'm like a parent away from home. I'm all in their business, trying to make sure that they stay on the right track. And you got to understand too, at the same time, they're gonna come and they're gonna make mistakes. Okay, they're gonna be kids, you know. So this is the spot where they can learn from them without it being the consequences due to being too harsh.
So you said primarily your season runs from like October to March.
Yep, October 1st to around March, the end of March, March 31st.
Ooh. So that's longer, pretty much longer than basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of managing that you have to do to keep them focused and at a high level. Like you said earlier, when you were talking about the mental health aspect and everything, there's a lot of coaching that has to take place.
Yeah, it's a grind. It is a
Mhm.
grind.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of your young ladies. Who are the young ladies who make up the Alabama State women's bowling team?
We had a senior on the team this year, Bailey Chatmon from Louisiana. Bailey made all conference this year. Um, we had Imani Davis from the Detroit area, who was a senior this year. Savannah Razor, who was all conference, all tournament, tournament MVP. She won a little bit of everything this year. Lyric Osteen from the Detroit area. Alana Degree from Louisiana. As is going to be a sophomore in the team. She was a freshman on the team this year. She's a lefty. And Emily Price from Morgan City, Louisiana. And so we had a small team, but then we have recruits coming in. We have Zoe Moore from South Carolina, and actually have a hometown girl named Alyssa Fender. So we're looking to improve on what we did last year, and I think we ought to have another major bump in execution this year because, like I said, the first year was shortened, so they really couldn't see the improvement. This year they were actually able to see the improvement and take advantage of it. And so my hope is that they could see that and like, oh man, just think if I put just a little more effort in, if I give it just a little more than I did last year, how much better can we be? You know what I'm saying? So trying to change that thought process and grow it now.
Okay. Um, Now, when it comes to your team and your athletes, has the transfer portal affected your program at all, whether it's positive or negative?
No, sir, not at all. I'm not a fan of the transfer portal, but it has not affected our team at all.
Okay.
You know, all of that NIL and transfer portal and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I just look at it and shake my head.
Now, if you have a young lady who wants to sponsor a bowling shoe, you're not gonna stop her though, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But you see what it's become, you know. Oh, if I don't get more NIL money, I'm leaving. Yeah, that I'm not gonna say anymore. That's another one of them NCAA topics that we don't want to get. Like you said, we don't want to get fined.
Right. Yeah, we'll leave it alone. We'll leave it alone.
That sleeping dog lie.
Now, well, have you had transfer students to come in and contribute to your program over the years, or
I've never
does that?
I've never had a transfer student. Nobody's ever transferred in or transferred out.
Okay. So once you get them there, they love it. They just stay.
Yeah, I think they do because I clearly communicate with them what expectations are. You know, I try to set these bars and stuff. You know, with them, between them and the parents and stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna treat you right, but I'm gonna have an expectation of what it is that you need to be doing and how you need to be conducting yourself and the effort that you need to put out. You know, I feel like anybody can perform if they know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. There's no, I think you get discontent when you get surprised. You know, when you didn't know I was supposed to be doing this, or you holding me accountable for this, but you didn't tell me you were gonna hold me accountable for it. You know, I tell my girl when I tell recruits, I don't care if you're a senior or a freshman. I don't have starters. Okay. Most every program, or he's my starter, they're my starter. You know, when I make my lineup after practice that morning at a tournament, okay, is today if Jordan is your starter and he going to the gym and in the shoot around he couldn't hit a bucket, but this other Joe Cool over here, he's hitting everything. He's shooting from the logos and he makes every shot. I mean, you trying to win. My job is to win. So I'm going to put whoever's at that point in time executing the best. And my girls understand that. And they appreciate that. They know, oh, if I'm not executing the best, I'm not going to play. If I'm executing the best, I'm going to play. My job is to win.
So I guess, when you have to travel, when you can travel 10 and only play 5, I guess that has to come down to a decision like that.
Well, if I'm traveling 10 and only 5 are playing, them 5 are smoking it. And there ain't no sense in, unhitching the horse if it's running. One of my favorite quotes that I tell the girls, that I give to the girls all the time, is that thing that Shane Battier said. I don't complain about my playing time. I play so good the coach can't put me on the bench. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I use Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. I use Bledsoe and Brady. When you get an opportunity to get in there, take advantage of it. Be ready. Just like Brady did, just like Phillip Rivers did. Both when Bledsoe and Brees got hurt, it was over with then. They played so good, you couldn't take them out. So I explained that to my girl from the very beginning. There's no starters. You might have started 8 matches this year, but today you ain't got it, and they got it. That's who started, and you shouldn't be mad because you want to win. You want to ring. Okay, so the best play, period.
So that's very interesting. So that brings me to this question. you have a 3-day tournament. Are you allowed? I mean, how are you allowed to change your lineup every day, or how does substitution and things like that work?
I can change my lineup every game. Halfway through the game, I can say, you know what, so bring them in. On a Baker format where players bowl in one frame. Oh, this person left a split, but this person over here can probably pick that split up. Hey, sub, I'm subbing you, and then now they'll have to sit out until the next game, which is only about 10 minutes. So yeah, you can sub at will. You know, you can sub at will during bowling. Once you come out of the match, though, that particular game, you can't go back in. So when you take them out, you need to be sure that that's what you want. And then if it's a Baker, they can go back in the next game, but they can't go back in that particular game. And that, like I said, that's only 10 minutes.
Okay. So wow, that's very interesting.
The Alabama, a former Alabama A&M coach, Jeff McCorvey, who I run his pro shops for him, or one of his pro shops here in Montgomery. He taught me that when I first started coaching. He said, "Look, Andrew," he said, this bowling, you can sub in and out like a pitcher. If you got a left-handed batter coming up, you can put a left-handed pitcher in. If you got a right-handed batter coming up, you can put a right-handed pitcher in. But once you take that pitcher out, they're out until the next game. So he taught me about that when I first started coaching, and it turns out to be a good thing.
Okay.
You just gotta know how to use it. You gotta have a strategy.
Mm-hmm. So with you being a former baseball player, you were able to translate that very quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I did it in the SWAC championship when we won it in 2017. One of my lefties left a split, and it would be difficult for her to pick it up because of the configuration of the pins. I brought one of my right-handers in to cover the split. She made the split, and then she threw a strike in the next frame. So yeah, it's definitely a benefit to having right hands and lefties, but that strategy of who you're going to sub in and when, and what the lane conditions are, you know. So it definitely works.
Okay. So as we get ready to wrap up, and we definitely appreciate the time that you spent with us, because you've given us
opportunity.
oh, there's no problem. That's no problem over here. Because a lot of programs need the exposure they don't normally get. And so, we want to help provide that platform. Do you have assistant coaches with your program?
I actually have one this year. Miranda Rimmel, who's a former bowler of mine. She had a couple injury years when she was bowling for me, but she's extremely intelligent and she's a good technician. She knows how I think. So whereas she doesn't always agree with me, we're on the same page as far as how to coach the girls up and how we think and how we doing things. She's like an extra set of eyes. She's an extra brain because I can't think of everything. So we between the two of us, we like a almost two whole coaches. With me, with her, she's learning the coaching side of it now after being on the player side. And she's like, man, now I see what you were talking about when she was a player. And I said, yeah, it's kind of different now. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. But yeah, she graduated from Alabama State, got her master's in accounting, and so she's my assistant this year. She's a great technician.
Okay. And I also this is the time that I usually give coaches to be able to give shout outs to whoever they want to shout out, whether it's administrators, whoever you want to give thanks to. This is that particular time.
All right, so I want to thank all of the administration, Dr. Cable, Jackie, my immediate supervisor, Jackie Freeman. Um, I want to thank Travis Jerome, the sports information director. He really gave our program a lot of exposure that never, ever, ever happened until he took over. So he gave the president of the university, Dr. Ross, Annie DeFrat, um, Dr. Roll, his chief of staff, Coach Watkins, my baseball coach that I shared office with. Um, Over the years, he's taught me so much about being a man, about being a coach, about being a person. So I really want to shout him out, and in the bowling community here in Montgomery. They support us no matter what we do, whether we're doing ball raffles to raise money, whether we selling T-shirts, no matter what we do, our bowling community really supports us. And then I also want to shout out all the parents for the girls on the team. My parents travel well. Okay, when I say they travel well, they take a lot of stuff off my plate. I don't have to make restaurant reservations, anything like that. My parents are always there taking care of the team, and that's what the team is conducted of. It's the coach, the players, and the parents. We all working together for the same thing.
Okay. So, and I personally want to thank Mr. Jerome as well for setting this up, for letting you know and assisting with the scheduling and everything else. That was a great help, and I appreciate him letting you know. And definitely want to thank you once again for taking out the time to come and talk to us. That's very valuable. I learned a lot more about bowling than I ever it just this hour. I learned a lot more about bowling than I have over the years of me playing on and off. Because I didn't know there were various surfaces. I didn't know, I never thought about the construction of the balls or anything else. Didn't know about the change in how shoes are engineered now or anything else. All I know, I will tell you a funny story real quick.
All right.
There's a young lady who I follow on Instagram, and she was out on a date night and she was broadcasting it live on Instagram, and they were bowling. And I'm looking at the scores. I'm like, okay, well, who has what, and this, that, and the other. So she's telling me, what's going on. And I'm up here watching because she was winning at that time. And all of a sudden, I think her boyfriend just started whipping up on her. But I was watching her approach, and I had to tell her, I was like, your approach is too soft. You just kind of, taking a couple steps and letting the ball fly, just roll down the lane. You got to put some velocity behind. I said, there's a reason why they had those little markings up there too.
Yeah, you got it. You don't want it to deflect that much.
Right. Yeah,
but the biggest thing is you got to have fun. If you out there bowling, everybody say, "Oh, I'm not that good," but did you have fun? That's what matters. If you had fun, then you can get better. Okay, you'll be. It won't be a thing for you to get better as long as you're having fun. But if you're doing something you're not having any fun, you ain't definitely not gonna get any better at it.
Right. Yeah, because like I said, I just watched that. That was a hilarious thing watching them bowl. And then, like I said, I was a big Al Bundy fan.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and on Married with Children, they had that one episode where Al was trying to go for 300.
Right.
And while Peggy was not an enthusiast or anything, she was just there having fun and whatnot. But then all of a sudden, you hear in the background,
Peggy, man, Peggy was like, poor Al. Poor Al.
Right, because she comes home with the big trophy, and he comes home with the little itty bitty trophy.
Yep.
So I said I definitely used to, like I said, watch it all the time. I don't know what happened. I was also I came up during those days, of course, where you only had ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Right. You only had 12 channels.
Right.
If you were lucky, you had UHF.
Right. Had that aluminum on the rabbit ears and all that.
And the pliers.
Right. And so ESPN comes in. I'm not gonna sit up here and dog ESPN. But they brought in a lot more sports to America. However, I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think sports like track and field, bowling, and a few others kind of suffered because now they weren't getting the spotlight that they used to get, because for track and field, you used to get, the NCAA championships, which you get on ESPN, but then you would also get the Milrose games, you get the Penn relays, you get all these different, during track season, there was always a track meet that they were showing on ABC Wide World of Sports. Doing bowling, there was always bowling. In fact, I think there was just a program that was dedicated to bowling at one point. And like I said, I used to enjoy watching all that. I was just a sports junkie. And so, not being able to see it as much. I know, they do still have bowling on ESPN and Fox Sports Network and some of the others, but it's just not elevated, I think, like it used to be.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I think that with the expansion of all the sports and adding teams to these new sports and stuff, and the revenue that's coming in from them, they going for the money. And if you're in business for the money, even though I may not like it, I can't fault you for going for the money because that's what you out there for. So, got to see it from both sides.
Okay. Well, Coach Chatmon, like I said, this was very enjoyable, very informative, and I really do appreciate you taking out the time to come and talk to us. Once again, we want to congratulate you and your program on its successes this year, and we hope that you continue in the winning ways. We hope that I'm assuming that the NCAA have at-large bids, and so if it does, I'm hoping also that HBCUs get opportunities to have at-large bids in the future as well.
Yeah, they like I said, they just implemented the at-large for bowling a couple years ago. Or for the at-large, you got to be in the probably the top 10 or top 12. What they'll do is, if you're a conference champion in that top, then you'll fall out and everybody else will slide up. For us to get into the at-large, it's going to be steep. It's going to be real steep.
Well, I said,
but it's not impossible.
Exactly. Because that does pertain, as you said earlier, whether you D1, 2, or 3, everybody's in the same boat.
You got to put them shoes on and let it roll.
Okay. Well, with that, we will close out. And once again, I want to thank you, Coach. And, all the best for you and your program in the future.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about young shakes. 502 representative. Just change. And this is for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city.